The large lecture hall buzzed with the sounds of 200 students from across the galaxy. Some clicked mandibles. Others hummed with glowing skin. A few communicated through smell clouds that changed color in the air. In the back row sat Jin, the only human in the class. He was easy to miss among the colorful aliens. His plain clothes and simple backpack made him look ordinary. Jin kept his eyes on his notes, while the other students ignored him. Professor Cruel entered the room, his 6 legs clicking on the metal floor. The tall insect-like teacher had blue shiny skin and 4 arms that moved quickly as he spoke. The room went quiet. "Students of advanced xenobiology," Professor Cruel said in a buzzing voice. "Today I announce your final assignment. It will count for 40% of your grade." Jin sat up straighter. He needed a good grade. Humans were new to the galactic community, and many aliens thought they were simple and weak. Jin was the first human exchange student at the academy, and he felt the weight of representing Earth. Professor Cruel tapped a button, and a large image appeared above his desk. The creature on the screen made several students gasp. It had a body like a panther, but with 6 powerful legs. Crystal spines ran down its back. 2 long tentacles grew from its shoulders. Its mouth showed 4 rows of sharp teeth. "The fang beast of Taraxis Eye," Professor Cruel said. "Your assignment is to capture one alive and bring it back for study." Jin wrote quickly in his notebook, while other students typed on floating screens or recorded the information directly to their brain implants. A student with green scales raised her hand. "Professor, aren't fang beasts extremely dangerous?" "Yes, Nari. They are considered one of the most hostile non-sentient species in this sector. That is why this assignment is so valuable." Professor Cruel's eyes shifted to Jin. Even the most primitive student should find this educational. Several aliens laughed and looked at Jin. He kept his face calm, though his ears turned red. Professor Cruel continued, "You will work in teams of 3. Each team must bring back 1 live specimen. You have 5 days on Taraxis Eye to complete your task." The professor assigned the teams. Jin heard his name called with Da of Korea and Su of Nelvon. After class, Jin looked for his teammates. Da found him first. The Korean was tall and thin with silver skin that reflected light. His large eyes blinked rarely, and he moved with perfect balance. "You are Jin, the human," Da said. His voice was flat and precise. "I have studied your species. You lack natural defenses, enhanced senses, or significant physical advantages." Jin nodded. "That's mostly true. How will you contribute to our team?" Da asked. Before Jin could answer, a small figure approached. She had purple fur, large ears, and 4 arms that she kept close to her body. She looked nervous. "I am Su," she said quietly. "I specialize in engineering solutions." Jin smiled at her. "Nice to meet you both. I think we should start by learning everything we can about the fang beasts before we make a plan." Da looked doubtful. "Most teams will use stun weapons and force fields. The Academy has excellent technology for capture missions." "Maybe there's another way," Jin said. "On Earth, we have a long history of working with dangerous animals. Sometimes force isn't the best approach." "Your planet is young in galactic terms," Da said. "Our methods are proven across thousands of worlds." Jin took out his old paper notebook. "Still, I'd like to research the fang beasts' behavior. Understanding how they think might give us an advantage." Su looked interested. "What kind of understanding?" "Their social structure, hunting patterns, communication methods," Jin explained. "All animals have patterns. If we learned those patterns, we might not need to fight them at all." Da made a sound like a sigh. "We will meet tomorrow to prepare our equipment. You may bring your research." He walked away quickly. Su gave Jin a small smile. "Humans are interesting. I look forward to working with you." She hurried after Da. Jin watched them go. He opened his notebook and began to write. determined to prove that humanity had something valuable to offer the galaxy. Jin arrived early to the preparation room. Large tables filled the space, covered with strange devices and tools. The walls held screens showing images of Taraxis I, a small moon with yellow skies and sharp rock formations. Jin sat alone with his notebooks spread out. He had spent all night in the Academy library, reading everything about fang beasts. Most reports focused on their danger and how to kill them. Few talked about how they lived or behaved. The door opened, and Da entered. The Korean carried a small silver cube. He placed it on the table, and it opened like a flower, revealing dozens of devices inside. "Good morning," Jin said. Da nodded. "I have brought standard capture equipment, stun nets, force barriers, and sleep gas." Jin pointed to his notes. "I found something interesting. Fang beasts mark territory with scent from their neck glands. They respect territory lines and rarely cross them." "How does this help us capture one?" Da asked. "We might use their own scents to guide them where we want," Jin explained. Sue arrived next, pulling a floating cart with metal parts and tools. Her purple fur was messy, and her eyes looked tired. "I worked all night on this," she said, showing them a device with many buttons. "It can create a sound field that should confuse the beast's hearing." "Good work," Jin said, "but I'm thinking about a different approach." He showed them a rough drawing of the fang beast's head. "See these marks behind their ears? They look like old scars. What if these creatures were once domesticated?" Day blinked twice. "That contradicts all academic knowledge. They are wild predators." "Maybe now," Jin said, "but everything I've read about their behavior suggests they understand commands and boundaries. That's unusual for purely wild animals." The door opened again as other teams entered the room. A group of tall, blue aliens laughed when they saw Jin's paper notes. "The human is using dead trees to plan," one said loudly. "Perhaps he will throw rocks at the fang beast." Jin ignored them and continued. "I think we should bring these items." He showed Sue and Da a list. Strong ropes, food treats, scent markers, and a whistle. Da looked doubtful. "These are primitive tools." "Sometimes simple is better," Jin said. "Complex technology can fail. And the beast might have seen advanced traps before. Other people have tried to catch them." Across the room, teams tested weapons and traps. One group had a floating cage with energy bars. Another had guns that fired sticky nets. Everyone looked confident with their advanced tools. Sue studied Jin's notes. "Your ideas are different, but interesting. What exactly do you plan to do?" "First, we observe," Jin said. "We learn the beast's habits. Then we use scent markers to create a path. We don't chase it, we let it come to us." "And then?" Dai asked. "I want to try something from Earth's history," Jin said. "Horse whispering. It's a technique for gaining an animal's trust through body language and respect." Day made a sound like metal scraping. Jin realized it was laughter. "You want to whisper to a fang beast, a creature that has killed 19 researchers in the past year." Jin nodded. "Trust can be more powerful than force." Professor Cruel entered the room, his blue shell gleaming. He moved between teams, checking their equipment. When he reached Jin's table, he looked at the simple tools with all four eyes. "What is this?" he asked. "Our approach, Professor," Jin said. Professor Cruel picked up the rope. "You plan to tie up a fang beast with this." "We have a different strategy," Jin explained. "Humans," the professor said to the room. "They think they know better than thousands of years of galactic science." Many students laughed. After the professor moved away, Sue touched Jin's arm with one of her four hands. "I will still bring my sound device," she said, "just in case. And I will pack the standard equipment," Dai added. "Your ideas can be our backup plan." Jin smiled. "Fair enough. Let's pack everything. We leave for Taraxis Iu tomorrow." They worked together, preparing for the journey. Jin noticed Dai secretly reading his notes when he thought no one was looking. The shuttle shook as it entered the thick yellow atmosphere of Taraxis Aya. Jin held onto his seat, feeling his stomach turn. He looked around at the other students. Some had changed color from stress. Others had grown protective scales or shells. Through the window, Jin saw the harsh landscape below. Sharp rocks jutted up like teeth. Yellow fog covered everything. Strange plants with dark leaves grew in patches. "We will land in 3 minutes," the pilot announced. "Prepare your breathing masks. The air here is toxic to most species." Jin checked his simple oxygen mask. Next to him, Dai wore a complex helmet with blinking lights. Sue had a thin film over her face that changed colors as she breathed. The shuttle landed with a bump on a flat rock area. The door opened, and hot yellow air rushed in. Jin put on his mask quickly. Professor Cruel stood at the door. His natural armor protected him from the air. "Teams will go in different directions," he said. "You have 5 days to capture a fang beast and return here. Emergency beacons are in your packs. Use them only if you are dying." He did not smile. Jin, Dai, and Sue stepped onto the rocky ground. The heat hit them immediately. Jin felt sweat form under his clothes. "We will go east," Dai said, looking at a glowing map on his wrist. "Sensors show caves in that direction. Fang beasts like caves." They walked for an hour through the sharp rocks. The yellow fog made it hard to see far ahead. Jin noticed the strange plants moved away when anything came close to them. "Stop," Dai said suddenly. He pointed to his wrist device. "The scanner shows a large life form 2 kilometers ahead." Sue took out her sound device and turned it on. "It's ready to disrupt the beast's hearing if needed." Jin looked at the ground. He saw marks in the dirt, long scratches that looked like claw marks. "These are fresh," he said. "The beast passed through here recently." Dai checked his scanner again. He hit it twice with his hand. "Something is wrong. It's not working properly." Sue tried her devices too. "Mine is having problems as well. There must be minerals in these rocks that interfere with our technology." Jin nodded. "That's why we brought backup tools." He took out his notebook. "These claw marks tell us more than the scanners anyway. See how deep they are. This is a large beast, probably an adult male." Dai looked worried. "Without our technology, we are at a serious disadvantage." "Not really," Jin said. "People tracked animals for thousands of years before scanners existed." Jin studied the ground carefully. He found more claw marks and small tufts of crystalline fur caught on rocks. "The beast went this way," he said, pointing to a narrow path between tall rocks. "And not long ago." "How can you tell?" Sue asked. Jin pointed to a small wet spot on a rock. "That's saliva. Still wet. Fang beasts drool when they smell food. Something it wants to eat is ahead." Dai looked impressed despite himself. "That is useful knowledge." They followed the trail Jin found. The path led to a small valley with more plants. In the center was a pool of green liquid. "Water," Jin said, "or whatever passes for water here. Animals need to drink. If we wait here quietly, the beast might come back." They found a hidden spot behind large rocks. Jin took out binoculars, simple glass lenses in a metal case. "No electronic parts to fail," he explained. As the yellow sun began to set, casting strange shadows across the valley, they heard a low growl from beyond the rocks. "It's coming," Jin whispered. "Remember, no sudden movements. We watch first, learn its habits. Then we make a plan." The growl came again, closer this time. Something large was moving toward the water. The 3 students stayed very still behind the rocks. The growling grew louder. Jin held his breath as a massive shape emerged from the fog. The fang beast was bigger than Jin had expected. Its 6 muscular legs moved smoothly as it walked. The crystal spines on its back caught the fading light and glowed with different colors. Its 2 shoulder tentacles moved through the air like snakes, sensing for danger. "It's huge," Sue whispered, her voice shaking. Bigger than the ones in the records. Jin nodded. This was an alpha, a leader among its kind. The beast was at least 4 meters long, with sharp teeth that showed when it opened its mouth to taste the air. The fang beast moved to the water and began to drink. Jin watched how it used its tentacles to check the area while drinking. Its eyes, 6 small red ones, moved independently, looking in all directions. Very alert, Jin whispered. Nothing surprises this animal. Suddenly, they heard a noise from the other side of the valley. 3 students from another team were moving closer with a large net gun. The fang beast's head snapped up. All 6 eyes focused on the other team. Its spine stood straight up, now glowing bright red. They're going to try to catch it, Daz said. They still have working technology. The other team fired their net gun. A large metal net flew through the air toward the beast. With amazing speed, the fang beast jumped aside. The net hit the ground where it had been standing a second before. The beast didn't run away. Instead, it turned to face the students. Its tentacles whipped forward, knocking 2 of them down. The 3rd student fired a stun weapon, but the beast's crystal spines seemed to absorb the energy. The reports were wrong, Jin said. The spines protect it from energy weapons. The beast roared, showing all 4 rows of teeth. The remaining student dropped his weapon and ran. The beast didn't chase him. Instead, it turned back to the water and continued drinking, as if nothing had happened. Did you see that? Jin asked. It didn't chase. It only defended its territory. That doesn't match the records, Daz said. Reports say they are mindless killers. Jin shook his head. No animal is a mindless killer. They all have reasons for what they do. They watched as the beast finished drinking. It sniffed the air, then looked directly at their hiding spot. All 6 eyes focused on them. Sue gasped. It knows we're here. Don't move, Jin said. Let's see what it does. The beast stared at them for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, it made a sound like a low whistle. It turned and walked away slowly, its tail swinging behind it. That was strange, Dai said when the beast was gone. It saw us but didn't attack. It was warning us, Jin said. That whistle was a message. Stay away from my territory. As night fell, they made camp in a small cave. Sue worked on fixing their equipment while Dai set up force field generators around the entrance. Jin sat looking at his notes. I think I understand this creature now, he said. It's not randomly aggressive. It follows rules. What kind of rules? Dai asked. Territory rules. Respect rules. It didn't chase that student because he was running away. No longer a threat. Jin drew a map in his notebook. I bet it has a den nearby. If we can find it, we might learn more. Find its den. Sue looked terrified. That seems dangerous. We need to understand it better, Jin explained. Tomorrow, I want to try something. While you 2 fix the equipment, I'll try to observe the beast more closely. Alone? Dai asked. That would be unwise. Jin smiled. Sometimes 1 person can get closer than 3. Less noise, less scent. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Outside, they heard distant roars as other teams encountered fang beasts across the moon's surface. The sound echoed through the rocks, making Sue cover her ears. Jin listened carefully. In those roars, he heard not just anger, but communication. The beasts were talking to each other, sharing information about the intruders in their world. Jin woke before sunrise. The yellow sky was still dark. Dai and Sue were sleeping deeply. Jin quietly packed a small bag with water, some food, his notebook, and the rope. He left a note saying he would be back by evening. The morning air was cold as Jin followed the tracks he had seen yesterday. He moved slowly and carefully over the sharp rocks. After an hour of walking, he found fresh claw marks on the ground. I'm getting close, he whispered to himself. Jin climbed a tall rock to look around. In the distance, he saw a large cave entrance. Dark stains on the rocks nearby showed where the beast had marked its territory. That must be the den. He moved downwind, remembering his training with earth animals. Predators could smell humans from far away. Jin had picked some strong-smelling plants on the way and rubbed them on his clothes to mask his scent. As Jin got closer to the cave, he heard deep breathing from inside. The beast was home. Jin found a spot where he could watch without being seen and waited. An hour passed. Finally, the fang beast emerged from the cave. In the morning light, Jin could see it clearly. Its fur was dark blue with silver spots. The crystal spines caught the light and made rainbow colors on the ground. The beast stretched its 6 legs and shook its massive body. Its tentacles reached out, touching rocks and plants around the cave. Jin wrote in his notebook, noting every movement and sound. The beast began its morning routine. It marked territory by rubbing its neck glands on rocks. It hunted a small 6-legged animal, showing amazing speed. It checked the borders of its territory. Jin watched for hours, filling pages with notes. He began to understand the beast's body language. When it was relaxed, its spines lay flat. When alert, they stood up slightly. When threatened, they glowed red. "It's time," Jin said softly. He put away his notebook and took a deep breath. Jin stood up slowly where the beast could see him. The fang beast froze. Its spines stood up and glowed orange, curious but not yet angry. Jin kept his body language calm and non-threatening. He didn't look directly at the beast's eyes, which many animals saw as a challenge. Instead, he looked slightly down and to the side. The beast growled and took a step forward. Its spines turned slightly red. Jin didn't run. Running would trigger the chase instinct. Instead, he slowly sat down on the ground, making himself smaller. He kept his movements slow and predictable. The beast tilted its head. Its spines returned to orange. It was confused by this strange behavior. Jin reached into his bag and took out a piece of meat he had saved from breakfast. He placed it on the ground and moved back. The beast watched him for a long time. Finally, its hunger won over caution. It approached the meat, keeping its eyes on Jin. Its tentacles stretched out to touch the meat first, checking for danger. Finding none, the beast ate the meat quickly. When finished, it looked at Jin again. Its spines were now blue, a color Jin hadn't seen before. "That's it," Jin said softly. "I'm not a threat. I respect your space." Jin slowly stood up. The beast watched but didn't growl. Jin took one step forward. The beast's spines turned slightly purple but not red. Jin tried something daring. He turned his back to the beast and walked a few steps away. This was a sign of trust, showing he wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. When he turned around again, the beast was closer. It was studying him with all 6 eyes. Its tentacles reached out, stopping just short of touching Jin. Jin held his breath. This was the moment of truth. Slowly, very slowly, he raised his hand, palm up, a universal sign of peace. The beast sniffed his hand from a distance. Then, to Jin's amazement, it made the same whistling sound he had heard yesterday, but softer, almost gentle. "Hello to you too," Jin said quietly. Jin spent the next 3 hours with the fang beast. He sat quietly, sometimes writing in his notebook. The beast watched him with interest. It kept a safe distance, but didn't leave. Jin tried different sounds and hand movements. He noticed the beast responded to certain whistles by moving its tentacles in specific ways. He began to copy these movements with his hands. "You understand signals," Jin said softly. "Someone taught your kind long ago, didn't they?" The sun was high in the yellow sky when Jin heard voices calling his name. The beast's spines immediately turned red. It growled and faced the direction of the sounds. "Easy," Jin said. "Those are my friends." Day and Sue appeared over a ridge of rocks. When they saw Jin sitting near the massive fang beast, they froze in shock. "Jin," Sue called out. her voice shaking. "Don't move." The beast roared at the newcomers. Its tentacles whipped through the air in warning. "Stay there," Jin called to his teammates. "Let me show you how to approach." Jin stood slowly. The beast watched him, but didn't growl. Jin walked toward his friends, keeping his movements calm and steady. "How are you still alive?" Dai asked when Jin reached them. His silver skin had turned pale with fear. "I've been learning about it," Jin said. "It's intelligent and follows rules. If we respect those rules, it won't attack." Su looked past Jin at the watching beast. "The other teams are having terrible problems. 2 more students were hurt this morning." "Because they're trying to capture the beasts by force," Jin explained. "These creatures were domesticated once. They respond to respect, not force." "Domesticated?" Da blinked in surprise. "What evidence do you have?" Jin showed them his notebook. "See these patterns in their behavior? The way they respond to certain sounds and movements. Wild animals don't do that. These were trained by someone, long ago." The fang beast was growing restless with Jin away. It pawed at the ground and made a short whistling sound. "It's calling you," Su said in amazement. Jin nodded. "I want to try something. Dae, would you like to meet it properly?" Dae looked uncertain, but curious. "What must I do?" "Follow my movements exactly," Jin said. "No sudden moves. Don't look directly in its eyes. Approach from the side, not the front." Jin led Da slowly toward the beast. He showed him how to keep his body language non-threatening. "Whistle softly, like this." Jin demonstrated a low, gentle sound. Dae copied the whistle. The beast's spines turned orange. Curious again. "Now sit down, slowly," Jin instructed. They both sat on the ground about 5 meters from the beast. The creature watched them carefully, its tentacles moving in small circles. "It's reading our intentions," Jin explained. "Show it you're peaceful." Dad, despite his fear, followed Jin's instructions perfectly. After several tense minutes, the beast's spines settled into a blue color. It made a soft, rumbling sound deep in its throat. "It's accepting you," Jin said with a smile. Su watched from a distance, her 4 hands clutching her sound device tightly. "This is incredible," she said. "No one has ever gotten this close without being attacked." The beast suddenly turned its head toward the east. Its spines flashed yellow. A moment later, they heard shouts and the sound of energy weapons. "Another team is in trouble," Daz said. The beast looked at Jin, then in the direction of the sounds. It made a series of whistles and growls. "I think it's trying to tell us something," Jin said. "There are more of its kind in that direction." "Can you understand it?" Su asked, finally coming closer. "Not words, but intentions," Jin replied. "I think it's warning us about the territory of another beast." The fang beast stood and walked a few steps toward the east. Then it looked back at Jin, waiting. "I think it wants us to follow," Jin said with excitement. Jin, Dai, and Su followed the fang beast as it led them through the rocky landscape. The beast stopped often to look back, making sure they were still following. "This is not normal behavior," Daz said as they walked. "The records say nothing about fang beasts leading people anywhere except to their deaths." "The records are wrong," Jin replied, "or incomplete." After 20 minutes of walking, they arrived at a large rock wall. The beast walked to a dark opening in the rocks and went inside. "It wants us to enter?" Su asked nervously. Jin nodded. "I think it's showing us something important." Day took out a light stick, and they carefully entered the dark space. Inside was a cave much larger than they expected. The walls were smooth, not natural. "This was made by someone," Daz said, running his hand over the wall. "Cut from the rock." As they moved deeper into the cave, their lights revealed markings on the walls. Pictures and symbols covered the smooth stone. Many showed the fang beasts with 2-legged creatures riding on their backs. "I was right," Jin said excitedly. "They were domesticated." The fang beast led them to the back of the cave where old objects lay scattered on the ground. Jin picked up a piece of hardened leather with straps attached. "This is a saddle," he said, "used for riding animals." "Impossible," Daz said, but his voice lacked conviction as he looked at the wall pictures. "The species that lived here used fang beasts as mounts," Jin explained. "When they disappeared, the beasts returned to a wild state, but they still remember their training deep in their minds." The beast watched Jin examine the saddle. Its spines were blue, calm, and curious. Su pointed to other items on the ground. "Look, there are more pieces, bridles, reins, everything needed for riding." Jin held the ancient saddle thoughtfully. "I have an idea," he said, "but it's risky." "What are you thinking?" Dai asked. "If these beasts were once ridden, maybe they can be ridden again," Jin said. "Maybe that's the way to bring one back, not as a captive, but as a partner." "You want to ride the fang beast?" Su's eyes grew wide with shock. "That's crazy." Jin placed the old saddle on the ground near the beast. It sniffed the leather, then made a soft whistling sound. It seemed to recognize the object. "I need to make a new saddle," Jin said. "This one is too rotten to use. Can you help me?" Dai and Su looked at each other, then nodded. They spent hours gathering materials. Dai used his sharp claws to cut strong vines for ropes. Su used her engineering skills to design a frame that would fit the beast's unique body shape. Jin worked on the straps and padding. As the yellow sun began to set outside, they finished their creation, a simple but strong saddle. Jin approached the beast with the new saddle. "This is the moment of truth," he said. The beast watched as Jin slowly placed the saddle on its back. Its spines shifted color several times, orange, yellow, then settling on blue. It didn't resist. "It remembers," Jin whispered. "Somewhere in its DNA, it knows what this means." Jin tightened the straps carefully. The beast remained calm. Finally, the saddle was secure. "Now for the hard part," Jin said. He stood beside the beast and gently put his hand on its side. "Jin, please be careful," Su said, her voice shaking. Jin nodded. With one smooth movement, he pulled himself up and onto the saddle. The beast stiffened. Its spines flashed red for a moment. Jin held his breath, staying very still. Then, slowly, the spines returned to blue. "It's accepting me," Jin said in amazement. Jin gently touched the beast's side with his foot. The creature took a step forward. He touched the other side, and it turned slightly. "It understands basic riding commands," Jin called to his friends. "Just like Earth horses." "Incredible," Da whispered. Jin guided the beast in a small circle around the cave. With each minute, the creature seemed more comfortable with a rider. "I think we found our way to complete the assignment," Jin said with a smile. The final day on Taraxis I arrived. Near the landing area, Professor Cruel stood waiting as teams returned from their expeditions. Most came back empty-handed, with torn clothes and injuries. A few managed to bring small juvenile fang beasts in cages or stasis fields. "Is this the best you can do?" Professor Cruel asked the tired students. "Where are the specimens I requested?" A tall green student stepped forward. "Professor, the beasts are impossible to capture alive. My team tried 3 different methods. 2 of us nearly died." Professor Cruel made a clicking sound with his mandibles. "Excuses. In my day, students would not give up so easily." He checked his data pad. 3 teams are still missing. They have 2 hours before the shuttle departs. Another student pointed to a container holding a small, sedated fang beast cub. "We found this one alone. The mother attacked us, but we managed to escape with the young one." Professor Cruel examined the container. "A juvenile. Better than nothing, I suppose." The professor looked around. "Has anyone seen the team with the human? I expected them to fail completely." No one had seen Jin's team. Professor Cruel made notes on his pad. "Probably lost or eaten by now." As the time for departure grew closer, the professor began final preparations. He instructed students to load their specimens onto the shuttle. The mission was disappointing, he told the class. Most of you failed to capture an adult specimen. We will discuss your poor performance when we return to the academy. Just as Professor Cruel was about to call for boarding, one of the students shouted and pointed to the horizon. Look, something's coming. Through the yellow fog, a shape emerged. At first, it looked like a large animal running toward them. As it came closer, the students gasped. It was Jin, riding on the back of the massive fanged beast they had seen earlier. The beast ran smoothly on its 6 legs, with Jin sitting confidently on the saddle they had made. Behind them, Dai and Sue followed on foot, carrying their equipment. Professor Cruel's 4 eyes widened in shock. Impossible, he whispered. Jin guided the beast directly to the landing area. With a gentle touch on its neck, he signaled it to stop. The beast obeyed perfectly, coming to rest just 10 meters from the stunned professor. The other students backed away in fear. The beast's crystal spines were glowing with a calm blue light. It looked around at the crowd but showed no signs of aggression. Jin slid down from the saddle and patted the beast's side. "Good boy," he said quietly. Professor Cruel found his voice. "How? What? Explain this immediately." Jin nodded respectfully. "We discovered that fang beasts were domesticated by an ancient species that once lived on this moon. They aren't naturally aggressive. They're defensive of their territory and respond to threats. But they can form bonds with people if approached properly." Dai and Sue arrived, breathing hard from their run. "It's true," Professor Dai said. "We found cave drawings and writing equipment. Jin figured out how to communicate with the beast using body language and sounds." Sue added, "We didn't need to capture it. It's coming with us willingly." The beast made a soft whistling sound and lowered its head to sniff Professor Cruel. The professor stumbled backward in fear. "Don't worry," Jin said. "He's just saying hello. He knows you're important because of how everyone is acting around you." You expect to bring this fully grown predator onto the shuttle?" Professor Cruel asked. Jin nodded. "He'll be calm as long as I'm with him. We formed a bond of trust." Professor Cruel looked at the beast, then at Jin, then at the other students with their small specimens or empty hands. "This is highly irregular," he said. "But I suppose the assignment was to bring back a live specimen. You have certainly done that." Jin smiled. "We're ready to return to the academy." 1 week after returning from Taraxis Aya, the large lecture hall at the Galactic Academy was full. Students and teachers had gathered to see the results of Professor Cruel's famous assignment. The room buzzed with excitement. Professor Cruel stood at the front, next to a row of containers. Inside were the small fang beast cubs that some teams had managed to bring back. Most of the tiny creatures were sedated or behind strong glass walls. "Today, we will examine the specimens from our field trip," Professor Cruel announced. "As you can see, capturing adult fang beasts proved nearly impossible. Only juvenile specimens were successfully contained." He moved along the row, explaining each capture method. Team 6 used sonic nets. Team 3 used sleep gas. Team 8 used a gravity trap to catch this small one. The professor looked around the room. Unfortunately, some teams failed completely. And one team. He paused, looking uncomfortable. One team claimed they would bring an adult specimen, but they are not here today. A student raised her hand. "What about the humans team? We saw them bring back a full-grown beast." Professor Cruel's mandibles clicked nervously. "Yes, well, there were complications with their approach. It was not a proper scientific capture method." Just then, the large doors at the back of the lecture hall burst open with a loud bang. Everyone turned to look. In the doorway stood Jin, wearing a new outfit made of tough material with reflective patches. Behind him was the massive fang beast, now wearing a professionally crafted saddle decorated with academy colors. The beast's crystal spines glowed with a calm blue light. The room went completely silent. Then students began to scream and scramble away from the doors. Teachers reached for emergency buttons on their desks. "Please remain calm," Jin called out. "He won't hurt anyone." Jin walked forward slowly, the huge beast following him like a trained pet. Its 6 powerful legs moved gracefully between the desks. Its shoulder tentacles gently pushed chairs aside to make room. Da and Sue entered behind them, carrying large data pads. They looked nervous but proud. Professor Cruel's blue skin had turned pale. "What is the meaning of this? You can't bring that creature in here." Jin smiled and patted the beast's side. "Our assignment was to capture a fang beast and bring it to class. That's exactly what we've done." With a gentle whistle, Jin signaled the beast to sit. It folded its legs and settled down at the front of the room, calm and alert. But, it should be in a containment field," Professor Cruel stammered. "That's not necessary," Jin said. He turned to address the class. "During the past week, we've worked with this beast. His name is Thunder, by the way, to demonstrate that fang beasts are not the mindless killers everyone believes them to be." Day stepped forward. "We've prepared a full research report. The creatures were domesticated by an ancient species that lived on Taraxis Uhu thousands of years ago. When that species disappeared, the beasts returned to a wild state, but they still carry the memory of domestication in their DNA." Sue activated a large screen showing the cave drawings they had discovered. "The key is respect and proper communication. Force doesn't work with them." To demonstrate, Jin made a series of hand signals and whistles. The beast responded by moving its tentacles in patterns, changing the color of its spines, and finally standing up and walking in a perfect circle around Jin. "Incredible," someone whispered. Others began to clap. Professor Cruel watched in amazement. "This contradicts everything in our textbooks about these creatures." Jin nodded. "Sometimes books are wrong. Sometimes we need to set aside our assumptions and learn directly from the world around us." Thunder made a soft rumbling sound, almost like a purr. Jin smiled and mounted the saddle in one smooth motion. He guided the beast in a slow walk around the room. "Sometimes," Jin said as Thunder carried him past the astonished professor, "the most primitive approach is actually the most advanced."